23 years. Okay, so all of you have been here longer than I have. Awesome. 9 years. Hmm, very cool. So as that trickles in, I will just kind of talk about our agenda. So today we'll be covering a few things, and as this is the advanced training, our main goal is to not necessarily teach you about who we are, but rather give you as many tools, information, resources as possible, so that we ensure that you, as the point person of your agency's CFD team, will be able to be as successful as possible. Um, so today we will be covering the CFD basics. And like I said, this is more just information for you to have and like refresh on how the campaign works. We will be diving into a discussion, a roundtable discussion on fundraising ideas, also just different communicative practices you can use during the campaign. And we'll just take some extra time on that. Next, we'd go into fundraising and the necessary practices for that. And then we'll go into an online presentation where I will show you around the website a little bit, resources that you can use, of course, like reminders. And Erin will just go into the campaign leader account itself and just show you around there and just remind you of all the different resources you can use there. All right, so we want to kick off the training with a short video about the CFD. And this video is just an example, one of the many resources you can use to promote us and share with donors, charities, and volunteers.
What's the Washington State What's the Washington State Combined Fund Drive all about? As a workplace giving program, we're here to help you make a difference in the easiest way possible. We provide an avenue for you to give to your favorite charities through payroll contribution, credit card, and check. For the past 38 years, our employees and retirees have inspired us with their devotion and commitment to making an impact in communities near and far. So why did they donate through us? Well, with our online giving platform and payroll deduction options, giving is easier than ever. We have access to thousands of charities that you can choose from, and giving through our program is safe, tax deductible, and anonymous. Together, we have strength in numbers. If just one person donates $5 a month to a local food bank, they could provide around 300 meals to families annually. Now multiply that by hundreds of donors dedicated to that same cause, and we start feeding thousands. We help your charities too. When we provide your personable one-on-one support with your financial investments, we save your charities time and resources and reduce their administrative costs. Your steady monthly giving through us helps charities budget and plan for their year. They have direct access to thousands of donors, and it's free to join. So give through the Combined Fund Drive today. And remember, you make the difference. We just make it easy.
All right. And this video is housed in our YouTube, on our YouTube page at Walk Mind Fun Drive. So if you ever want to jump onto our YouTube and see some of the fun videos that we've done in the past, our team is planning to do a lot more this year. So you can always follow us on YouTube. You subscribe, like, and subscribe for us. But this is just another place that I will show you later on too, as well. All right. So now Renee will kick us off with our CFD basics.
Hi there, guys. I'm going to go over CFD basics with you. First, we're going to go over some fast facts and figures from 2022 and historically. Layla, can you? There we go. Since 1984, we've raised $6. In 20 million was pledged to over 40 charities. This helped us maintain our status as one of the top state employee giving programs, and that would not have been possible without the 1,100 CFD volunteers like you across our state. Next slide, please. There are multiple ways to give through the CFD. You can give money, time, and or goods. Let's talk about monetary giving. When it comes to monetarily giving, there are 4 options. You can give cash, check, credit, and the one we encourage most, payroll contributions. Another way to give is through volunteerism. You can seek out charity information using the CFD charity search. You can track hours volunteered on the CFD website tracker. Layla will show you how to access that later on when she gives our online tutorial. We understand that our website can be frustrating. If you find yourself getting a little frustrated and can't figure something out, go ahead and email us at cfd.wad.gov and we'll try and help you figure it out. New this year, we'll be able to track tangible goods. This will be extremely helpful if your agency is participating in a food drive or a goods drive. You can simply use the QR code to link to the CFD food and goods tracker and enter in all of the information for the donations that you guys have received for that event. Individual donors can also use this tracker to track their independent donations given to community CFD charities. What are the benefits of participating in the CFD, you might ask? Well, for charities, one of the biggest benefits is that it costs nothing for them to sign up. And as soon as they sign up, they have access to over 100,000 donors. This helps them reduce their administrative costs, especially in areas like marketing, financial planning, and processing. This graph is a quick illustration of what it costs charities to generate funds. It's been observed that direct mailings are the least efficient way to raise funds. It usually costs about $1 to raise $1. Special events like the golf tournaments and masquerade balls that are super fun and everyone loves, they're super exciting, but they cost about 50% of what they raise. Direct mailings, that's not there twice by mistake. That is actually referring to our historical donors. It generally costs charities about 20% of every dollar earned to reach out to those reoccurring donors. Most workplace programs have about a 16 to 20% admin fee. When people ask why we should give to the CFD rather than any other giving pathway, a great selling point for us is that it typically costs about 10 cents on the dollar when donating through the CFD versus other giving avenues. This brings us to how the CFD is beneficial to all of us, the donors. It's relatively easy. It's safe. These charities are all confirmed. Each of them have registered with the Washington State CCFS. It's your choice. You can give to whatever charity you want, and we have multiple ways for you to track your donations. Monetary donations are pre-tax, and you can give anonymously if you so desire. And this covers all of our CFD basics. I'm going to hand over the mic and the camera back to Layla so she can talk about how the campaign actually works.
All right, thank you, Renee. Um, like I said, I know all of you guys have been here. This is not your first rodeo, so I'm just going to do a brief run through of how the campaign usually works. So, we have 3 main volunteer roles: the executive sponsors, local coordinators, and youth campaign leaders. The executive sponsors role is really to just rally support from executive management, whether that be sending emails of support or even showing up to some of the events and getting the whole agency excited from that executive level. And they always come back to you, the local coordinators as well. They're the volunteers that you're going to be recruiting for your agency's offices around the state. They're going to plan the fun events. You're going to be the point person for that. If they have any other questions, you're really that main person for both sides. And of course, there's you. You're going to be recruiting your team. You're going to be logging those fundraisers that I mentioned, ordering any CFD supplies, swag, things like rack cards or thank you cards. Um, Here we have a bunch of those, and so you just always have to ask us for anything. If you want to build a theme for the year, if you have certain goals that you want to hit, that's up for you to kind of coordinate with everyone. And you're just mainly communicating with both sides and being that person between your coordinators, your executive sponsors, and us. So, your role is to recruit, like I said, and educate, communicate about the CFD, communicate the events that are coming up. Like I said, if you're going to send a goal or have an agency-wide goal, that'd be really cool. Whether it be like this year, we want a bunch of volunteer hours. We want to get that volunteer award this year. We want participation, whatever you want for you make the most out of it. And the biggest thing is just logging those fundraisers. And like I said, Erin will kind of do a step by step for you. I know many of you have already done this in the past, but it's always good to just refresh on that. And here, this is just a breakdown of what you might want to see when you're recruiting and finding new volunteers for this upcoming campaign. Like I said earlier, you're going to want to try to find different pathways to communicate about the CFD and like what are we, why should donors donate? We've kind of been experiencing a lull in donations, and so we're trying to figure out different ways to excite people about giving and show them that it's something that's beneficial to everyone, and it's like it brings good feelings to the whole agency as well. So here are different ways that you might want to be able to communicate with your team and with your donors throughout this campaign. So you can send some email templates, set up some email templates now so that during that campaign every week you might send out the same thing but with different events, maybe different volunteer and donor stories in a little section, like a newsletter or something. Something fun that is consistent and everyone would look forward to every week or bi-weekly, whatever you want to make of it. Social media is a big one. We have social media platforms. We have Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So if you ever want to support us through that and retweet, repost any of those, that'd be great. And you can always post your own. We create flyers, whether it's event flyers or um, our themed flyers this year, we can always send those out. Um, and just include our information whenever Erin sends out her lovely emails. If you want to just forward those over to through your interagency communications, that's a great way to just be interactive with us. And you can ask your executive sponsor to support your emails as well and forward those on. I think when people see like, oh, this person, this like director is saying something, people tend to listen more or be like, oh, this might be really important. Not that you aren't important and your emails aren't awesome and everyone reads them all the time. Um, you can also be present at your agency celebration, which is a good way, everyone's having a great time. This is a good way for you to just take maybe 5 or 10 minutes during that celebration to be like, hey, you know what else we could do this year? We can participate in the CFD, and these are some great reasons why you would want to do that. Next, you can also invite a charity speaker to your agency meetings, and you can, like I said earlier, add donor and volunteer stories in weekly newsletters or emails. So every year we have a theme, and it's something that can help inspire giving. And so this year our theme is 23andB. And so it could be like be bold or 23 and be giving. And 23 and be a volunteer, something fun. And you can always play on with that theme as well. Um, Something that we were thinking about, our team thought could even be fun to do like a spelling bee, which could be fun. But last year was Give 2 and 22, and that was really cool because it was trying to support um, just participation. You can give as little as $2 a month, and that can make a difference. So this year we want to just play around with like words and um, leave that for you all to kind of play with as well. Oh yeah, we could also play into the 2 or 3, Natalie. That is fun. Um, Next, throughout the campaign, you might want to order some supplies from us. So just thank you cards, swag like pens, or have an order form that you can fill out, or we have an order form that you can fill out for that, as well as many online PDFs. Everything is online these days. So most of the things, if you need it, we have an online version, but we can also have printed copies as well. And so that's it for me for now, and I'm going to pass it over to Robert to go through the really fun stuff.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I think that my introverted team likes to play tricks on me by giving me all the very exciting slides, like talking about disbursement and ethics. So bear with me. I think this is just important, and I'll go over it lightly since you all have been here before, but just as a reminder how disbursement works. It is on a quarterly basis. And so that's the biggest thing to take away, is that when someone donates, the week prior, their money is not at the charity yet. It takes a little bit of time. And that's for a few different reasons. One of them is that we have to balance and make sure that we get the money that we expected, because as you can imagine, managing 120 different agencies, schools, and everything in between. People go on maternity leave, people go on FMLA, people leave the agency, but what they don't always remember to do is change what they were planning on giving. And so sometimes our system will expect, someone to be donating, and then we don't get those funds, and we have to investigate why, or we have to at least tell the system, hey, we didn't get the money, don't expect the money, so it doesn't mess with our numbers. Other times, people will be entering in and they meant to donate $5 or $50, and they add an extra zero, and then all of a sudden they've donated $500. And it feels really awkward if you have to go to a charity and say, hey, I didn't actually mean to give that to you. And so what's really great about us holding that money for a few weeks is that we can rectify those issues. They're few and far between, but they do occasionally happen. And so we do that, and basically we just follow the quarter system on a calendar. So January through March, April through June, July through September, and October through December. We'll talk about deadlines, and we talk about deadlines every year, and inevitably a few agencies ignore our pleas and give things to us late. And really it's just about getting the money to the charities when they expect it. If you all do an amazing job raising funds for a charity of your choice or for multiple charities, and then you don't get that fundraiser in on time, instead of getting their money in January, they get it in April. And so following this disbursement is wonderful, because the charities get one electronic deposit and or check. Instead of 500 individual checks. It's way easier for them. They appreciate how simple it is and how we provide them a report that gives a breakdown of all the donations for each individual person per quarter. So a little bit about disbursement. Next slide, please. Another thing that I sometimes shock longtime volunteers with is the fact that the Combined Fund Drive is not funded through the general fund. And so we don't operate the same way that a lot of agencies do. So even though we are housed in the Secretary of State, we receive no funding from the legislature to operate, which means we have to cover our own expenses. And so the way that we try to raise money is through payroll contribution. So people can donate directly to the CFD. Sometimes it's a great little add-on, right? Like, oh, you're looking to give, but you can't pick a charity because there's so many good charities. You can support the mission of the combined fund drive and donate directly to us. Sometimes agencies benefit, have the beneficiary of their fundraisers for us. So maybe they feel compelled to not select one charity over another. Every agency has a different approach. And so sometimes raising directly for the combined fund drive is a really welcoming way to get people involved, in the sense of like, oh, like everyone can just resonate with giving, where maybe not everyone resonates with a kitten rescue place or something like that. I think I would, but not everyone does, right? And so we also get to break the rules with corporate donations. And so we can get donations from Washington State Employee Credit Union, Twin Star Credit Union, and Puget Sound Energy. And so they provide us with complimentary gift cards for our first week to give, as well as Twin Star provides us with funding for our leadership breakfast. And then Puget Sound Energy recently has agreed to sponsor us for our statewide awards moving forward to help us with some of our costs. So again, they provide us with either in-kind donations or money to be able to promote some of these events. So it doesn't cost you all money in the form of an administrative fee. We do collect a little bit of interest on our bank account as we're holding the money before we disperse it. So holding $1 million in a bank account gets you a couple $1,000s in a few months, and we use that to try to pay some of our bills. So basically, what does it cost to run the program? Like most organizations, our highest program cost is salaries and contracts. And so CFD staff, we have 4 full-time CFD staff here in the Secretary of State's office running the full-time campaign. We also have some additional staff at our 2 largest agencies, so at University of Washington, as well as DSHS. So we have some interagency agreements to help support that, because they have 32,000 individuals and 17,000 individuals. And so they just require a little bit more support to kind of work through some of that minutia. Agency refunds, basically, if you run an event, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later, but you can submit for a refund. When you ask for that refund, it comes out of the form of an administrative fee, right? So we can't pay all our bills. So when you spend $1,000 at a golf tournament and you don't cover the funds for that, and you ask for a refund, you're in your right to do that. But what ends up happening is that we have to increase our administrative fee to cover that expense. And so we always encourage campaign leaders and local coordinators to really think about trying to cover as many costs as you can, either through your agency or through, you know, a registration fee for the event, where some of the money goes to the CFD and then others of the money goes to whatever charity you are hoping to support, just to keep that administrative cost low and to keep it equitable for all of our member charities. Event contracts, so when we host events in person, whether it be the leadership breakfast or even renting out the Columbia room next week when we do the in-person campaign leader training, and then IT equipment, so our computers, our laptops, again, not funded by general fund dollars, as well as the application support for the CFD itself. So basically, I wish I could say that we always raise more money than we need, but it's the opposite, because we are not in the business of creating an endowment. We don't hoard our money. We basically pay the expenses that we need to every quarter, and then anything that's left over goes to the member charities, because we're in the business of making it quick, easy, reliable, and low cost to them. And so whatever cost remains, we charge as the form of an administrative fee. We try to keep that under 10%. Due to a lower turnout the last couple of years with higher inflation and staff turnover, it's been a little over 10%, but we have many years that are under 10%, so we hover somewhere between 8 and 12% on a given year. So the more that we fundraise for the CFD, or the more that we fundraise in general, it lowers our administrative costs, because if we're collecting more funds, we can spread that expense across more monies, which gives us a lower administrative cost. And yes, 10% is a really low administrative fee. Again, for those of you who might be combating some of this, like, oh, I don't like that you take 10%. Places like United Way, which are great organizations, take 25% because they do wraparound services. They're really integrated into the community. We try to just do what we do very, very well and no more, right? We make sure that payroll contributions are easy, safe, and effective. And so because of that, if we raised an extra $1 million, I don't plan on, we don't need a bunch of more staff members to do things. Could we grow? Absolutely. But do we need to do frivolous spending? No. And so we'll be good stewards of your dollars, and we continue to strive to do that. Next slide, please. So you already know that you can use state time, so we won't go over that in the ethics board, but generally speaking, if you ever need help talking to your leadership, so if you have new leadership and they're like, you can't be doing that on state time, it's ethics board 00-09, happy to talk it through with them or happy to give you the resources. But soliciting is again one of those gray murky areas, so always check in with your leadership, but it is allowed. And CFD is allowed to solicit for in-kind resources. However, employees at regulatory agencies or certain agencies with a perception or profile may not be allowed to solicit. So it's 00-09. So just one less zero. And I can throw that in the chat. It's in our policy on our website. But so just always check with your agency leadership or human resources if you're unsure if you can or can't do this. Again, it's one of those things where some agencies will say yes, but you can't do it on state time. You have to do it on your own time. Some will say yes, but please never say that you're from Secretary of State's office. Always identify yourself as a combined fund drive volunteer. So it's just important that you reach out to your leadership, have a good understanding of what they're willing to kind of work with when it comes to policy. Is this policy for CFD leaders? No, it's for everybody. So it's for everybody. So we go over this every year in the campaign leader training. So let me drop the policy itself, and we can go ahead and go through it. But it's basically for all volunteers. And then soliciting. So, oh, I just already went through that. So next slide, please. There are solicitation letters. We have kind of a template one that we can get to you. If you do solicit, so solicitation would be like you approaching a business and saying, would you be willing to donate the cotton candy machine for my fun run? Would you be willing to donate a prize box for my silent auction? It's important, again, the hardest part about the CFD is that each agency gets to decide how much they donate when it comes to time, resources. So it's all legal, it's all on the up and up, but your agency has to buy into, yes, this is a good use of ESD's time, money, resources. Yes, this is a good resource of Secretary of State's time, resource, etc. We strongly recommend that you identify yourself as a CFD volunteer and not an employee at your agency right away. It's very confusing to a small business owner if you go up to them and say, hi, I'm Robert from the Secretary of State's office. Would you donate some free stuff to us? Of course, you're going to say it a lot nicer than that, but when they interpret why is a state agency coming and asking a taxpayer for free things, I already give you taxes, to run your organization, it might be a little confusing. And so we always encourage individuals to identify themselves as a CFD volunteer. And then once that conversation gets going, if appropriate, you say, yep, I'm actually with the Secretary of State's office, but we run this nonprofit called the Combined Fund Drive that helps other nonprofits with state workers, etc. And then if you're unable to use work time for in-kind solicitations, sometimes your agency will say, yeah, you can like print things off, but like go and ask on non-state time if you want. And that's where you have to find the difference between, right, when you're working on CFD stuff, you're not volunteering if you're on state time. So if you're working between your normal 8 to 5 hours, that doesn't count as volunteer time because you're getting paid to do that. But If you go above and beyond, you're working outside of your normal job hours or your normal job week, then it's volunteerism. So again, it's kind of gray and murky sometimes, and it's important to pause and think about where you're at in that current moment. Next slide, please. Again, some more gray things, raffles and gambling. RCW Title IX, Chapter 46, another very exciting and thrilling document for your perusal, is basically the short version. Raffles are permitted, but the CFD can't raise more than $5,000 in raffle fundraisers per year. So it makes it really, really challenging for any of our larger agencies to do any sort of raffle. If you are an agency or a commission or a school that is wanting to tackle raffles, it's important to know they can't be sold like a deal. So they have to be $1 for one ticket, $5 for 5 tickets. You can't do like $1 for one ticket, $5 for the length of my arm, right? Like they have to have a consistent value. And they have to be protected like cash. So all your cash handling procedures that your fiscal office would enforce would follow the raffle tickets themselves, because then they are perceived to have a cash value. Gambling is prohibited, and it's defined as a contest where the elements of prize, chance, and consideration are present. This is another thing that gets people a little bit in the sticky. They'll be like, oh, we want to do bingo, and everyone's going to donate $5, and then the winner gets half the money, and then we donate the other half. That is gambling, right? And so there are legal ways to not make a event like bingo gambling, in the sense of you can remove the chance of prize. So you could say everyone donates $5 to be a part of bingo. And if you win, you get to choose which charity wins. So you're not winning, right? You don't get a prize, but you get to choose which charity gets the funds collected. So that's a legal way that you can make something that looks like gambling, not gambling, and cross your T's and dot your I's and be in the clear. We have a one-pager on our website. Layla will point it out when she goes over the website, and it's called "Is It Gambling?" And it's a one-pager that we worked with the Gambling Commission on to make sure that you all are in compliance and don't get yourself in trouble. The 5K for CFD as a whole, great question. I keep asking and they keep giving me vague answers. And so my guess is that it's per agency, because the CFD is its own entity that's not an agency. And so, yeah. But if you're doing if you're doing raffles, I would just check in with like your HR, and then they'll probably make you check in with your AAG, and then they'll tell you, I'm willing to take that risk or I'm not willing to take that risk. And so it is per agency. Oh, Michelle, I love when Michelle's in this chat because she always can answer my questions so I don't feel foolish. So appreciate it. So per agency. So again, these are all things that are in your legal right. They just require intentional conversations beforehand so you don't accidentally do something wrong. So we just don't want you getting in trouble. But so we always recommend reaching out to your leadership. When in doubt, either reach out to the GMB or reach out to your AAG, and they'll talk about risk and what they're willing to do as an agency in general. Next slide. So we are going to take a 5-minute break to just reset, get some water, stretch, use the restroom if you need to. And when we come back, we're going to break into groups because we know we've been talking to you a lot. And we want an opportunity for you all to share your comments, questions, concerns. It's going to be focused on fundraising and maybe ideas that you have or questions or things that you've heard about, or you can pick the brains of the other people in the room. But we'll come back at 10:41. And we'll go ahead and jump into some group discussions around fundraising and let you all chat with us. We know it can be a little information heavy, so we appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you in about 5.
All right, so hopefully most of you are back. Erin has set us up into breakout rooms, and so we will go into that for 15 minutes, and each of us, or each of our team members will be in at least one of those. So, Erin, whenever you feel free to do that.
Okay, friends. Oh, where did Renee go? Oh no. Okay. Robert, Renee, room 1, Layla, room 2, I'm in room 3.
All right, thanks.
Beth, I will assign you to a room. We're talking about fundraisers. Hold
Okay,
on one
yeah,
moment.
I got disconnected from the room that I was
Oh.
sent to, I think, so.
Oh no. Okay, let me get you back in one.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
The joys of facilitation, right?
I know. I don't see you in participants to assign you.
Okay, I think I got kicked out of the entire meeting, and so I came back
Oh.
and
How can I? Oh, shoot. Oh, no.
so if you just assign me to a room. Oh, did you invite? You probably canceled all the rooms.
I did. Technical difficulties, my friends. I'm getting you back in your rooms. Apologies.
Okay.
Okay, I see a join room, so.
Oh, okay. And then, Robert and Renee, you have to manually put yourself in. Sorry. Whee! Hello, friends. I'm so sorry. Ugh, technical difficulties. Let me get these rooms back going.
Thank you, Erin.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So did we all get bumped out?
You all got bumped out. I accidentally closed it when I was trying to scoot one person in that got kicked out. Oh, the joys of doing everything remotely. I can see now.
You're doing good, Erin.
Oh, thank you. So the rooms are open.
I think Robert and Renee might have to click on resume since they're on hold. Let me turn them down.
Okay. One.
We're back.
Yes, I apologize. I was trying to add a person in and then inadvertently closed everything. So now I'm trying to scoot everyone back into their rooms. Oh,
This isn't working, Aaron. I think we just need to, we have 2 people in room 1 and everyone else is on hold and they're not coming in.
okay.
And it's almost been 10 minutes.
Okay. We're going to pivot. We're all going to have a big group discussion.
Okay.
Closing the rooms.
Okay, closing the rooms. Everyone back in.
So in case you all were wondering, when someone joins late and then we try to add them into the rooms, it breaks all of the rooms and then you all get kicked out and then you all have to try to join back in and then only 1 or 2 of you get to come back in and then we end up in one big group. So this is where we're at. Don't do that. So once you've split up into groups, if someone shows up late, they just have to hang out in the lobby with you. Don't try to add them. It doesn't work. We are going to try to salvage the few minutes that we have left. So I know there were some discussions going, but you know, a learning lesson for all of us. I don't know if there was an active conversation that we can pick back up on because I was trying to navigate, but we have probably like 5 minutes to kind of talk through some ideas, some goals, some questions you might have so we can connect you with other ways, with other individuals or with our team at a later time. So we'd love to hear from anyone that's willing to share or have questions, comments, concerns, dreams, aspirations. Jolynn.
So I have to say, I'm super excited to see the new the tool that you had for food and donation management, like to be able to do that, because I was gonna say we do something like that now. We did a fundraiser in January for the UW Food Bank, which is I work at the UW, and so we were able to track both the money and if you're very nice to the state CFD team, I bet they would set you up a form builder page so you could do that for your agency. And then we were also able, because we were working directly with the food bank, able to track the weight, like they weighed everything for us so we could do a full report out of this is how much money we raised and this is how much food was donated. And people were really responsive to that. So I think that it's a great tool and it's a great way. I think food drives are a great way, and having those tools available are a great way to hit people who are remote and just want to make a donation, and people who want to come in and who my niece is an extreme couponer, and so like she frequently will be like, yes, I bought like 27 jugs of laundry detergent for like 14 cents. So I just gave them to the food bank because I don't need them all, right? So if you have folks like that, it's also a great space for them to really kind of show off their prowess.
Yeah, and that was from feedback from, you know, we had talked to a few agencies and they were doing it independently, and so we took it to our advisory council over the last advisory council, and we worked with a few people who volunteered in a small group to kind of set up what it was equated to, and so knowing that we might have to address that every once in a while to know what a buck can buy, but can be helpful to really know the impact. So we're glad to be offering that. I think it's something that as workplace giving continues to go on, right? Like we added volunteerism, I think in 2013 when we started tracking volunteer hours. And so it's again, just looking at things holistically rather than just monetarily. Other comments, questions, ideas? And we can go a little bit longer. You all know everything, so we don't have to go as in depth in the rest of our presentation.
I actually do have one other question. Oh, sorry, Jeannie, I see you raised your hand. I can wait.
Oh, I was gonna say, just finish your comments because go ahead, hon.
Okay, thanks, Jeannie. Are you going to be able to, I know that in the past we've, I say that like I have anything to do with it. Y'all have worked with the folks who do the, what do you call it? The Smart Health promotions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's people like make a donation or something that they get points. Are y'all going to do that again this year?
We need to Who's in HCA in this meeting? Anyone today? We need to make our annual connection with them. So
I have a connection with them, Robert, if you want it.
okay, yeah, we'll circle back and
Okay.
make sure that it's on there. It has just kind of been pre-populating the last couple of years, like they've kind of kept some of it. So I just want to make sure it stays.
Good, because I think that that's also a great like double duty, like make a donation and save money. Two for
Mm-hmm.
the two for as much.
Jeannie.
Yeah, hi Robert, hi Aaron, hi everybody. It's so good to see you guys and Renee. Trust me, I see everybody and Bonnie. If I don't mind me promoting my softball fundraiser I'm doing in August, because it involves a lot of state agencies, right? And so if any of you guys are really interested in wanting to participate in that, I would love to hear back from you. This will be my 7th year doing this, and honestly, Robert, one of the things I've learned over the years with doing my work with CFD, and some of you guys may already know this, but is to build relationships with your not only coworkers, but your upper management. And I just want to put a shout out there with you guys, CFD team, because, if it wasn't for you guys to, let them know how important CFD is all about, and that's what I'm trying to promote with my agency. And to be honest with you, it's been kind of hard, especially being a regulatory agency, right? I cannot seek out donations from, say, Mod Pizza that supports 20% of your fundraising to go to charity. I can't do that. Right. And so with that being said, I'm really happy and proud to say that I got some management, executive leadership support around me this year, and it does take patience, it does take persistence. And that's one of the things that helps me get through this CFD campaign year. So I say that to say I got leadership behind me. They were able to pay for the fields, and I got some union support and IAWP support to help pay for some food on the table, I say, so I'm really excited about this year. I'm trying to promote it more. And one of the things I just use is just to keep following up and build those relationships with people, to encourage people along the way when it comes to this event. So August 26th, love to see you be part of it. If you're interested, let me know. Because again, I can't stress it enough. It's really, I hate to say it, but it's been kind of challenging with my agency for me here I'm in King County and Olympia's in Thurston County, and it's been a challenge, but I'm learning every year with all these different things. And one of my themes that I've used over the years is without you, letter U, there is no us. And to make a difference. And I shared a video just yesterday with our one of our directors does these village circle meetings, and they loved it. And so I'd encourage you to use a video, some kind of video that speaks to your campaign, because that goes a long way. And so I just want to encourage people that way. And so, yeah, again, I appreciate for me to throw that out there with everybody, Robert. I hope to meet some of you guys more face to face this year, because it's been well overdue. So anyway, take care, and thank you for letting me share that, Robert.
Yeah, no problem. And it really is, I think Jeannie makes a good point of just, we are in this post-COVID world. We get so many emails per day, and it's really, really easy to ignore an email from someone you don't know or to glance at it. But making those intentional connections is the way that you're going to get involvement, and utilizing those key influencers in your office are really vital to moving things forward. We probably can spend, Aaron, like 4 more minutes, and then we probably should move on. Or Layla, someone who's in charge of me.
Just maybe a couple more minutes if there's any other questions.
Comments, ideas,
We're
feelings.
also going into the fundraising practices. So if you have any questions for that, so that Erin can make sure to hit on that when she goes through her presentations. Welcome back, Anita. Yeah, Angela.
Coming back, can you, okay. Hi, I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say that we found it using with our fundraisers, connecting with the charities that we're sponsoring and having them come to our events has extremely helped increase participation and help create those stories and the linkage. So we found the resources on the CFD website when it comes to the outreach and getting speakers to come extremely beneficial. The most heartfelt one was last year. We organized a fun run. I would recommend don't do it in July and August. We kept having to change the date because it was too hot. So if there's a lesson learned, don't do that. But a representative from the Boys and Girls Club came and told how they got involved. And that story was shared amongst our work group. And actually, we saw more donations come after. We used the credit card link showing up after this. It was like, I heard this. And so they wrote those connections that if you can have a speaker with the charity there, we found that extremely beneficial in increasing the funds that we raised for charity. Just want to share that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And it's totally allowed. So Natalie asked, it's one of those things where it's all about how your agency feels. And so some agencies are like, we're not going to promote any charity over any charity because and that works for them. Some charities pick one charity to really focus on. So, or some agencies pick one charity. So like University of Washington is an example where every year they highlight one charity. It's not to say that people can't donate to all the other charities because they continue to do so, but their focal point of how they do messaging or who they're highlighting at maybe their training events is they'll bring that kind of speaker in for their training, or they'll have them be a part of an event. And so it does work for individuals, but they can volunteer. The biggest thing is we have to invite them to join us. Being part of the CFD, they're not allowed to solicit you all. So they shouldn't be reaching out and blasting everybody's agency saying like, I need your help. You need to have more people donate to me. But if we choose, if your agency chooses to work with them, that's totally allowed.
Yeah, and just to build off of that too, is we're nonpartisan staff at the Senate, especially that organize it. So we have to be really cognizant of which charities we are selecting for fundraising. And so that is really, that is definitely, you have to be careful potentially on this, but it has been great for us. So thank you.
Any last minute comments? We probably got time for one more question, comment, idea. Jolynn.
Sorry, I was typing out a long note. Excuse me, and I just wanted to say, so we do a focused nonprofit, we do a featured nonprofit every year, and it has been part of the reason we do that is so that we have a space for shared messaging. As Robert said, it's not the only organization people can give to, but I know sometimes people look at all the organizations and they feel really overwhelmed, right? There's over 4,000. And so like saying like, hey, our featured organization is Northwest Harvest, right? Like we're like, oh, like I've heard of them. They're great. And so it's kind of a nice, it can create a safer entry space for people because they already know, and then they learn more about the CFD and the organization, and then they feel safer and better exploring through the process.
I know DSHS had Northwest Harvest, the director, come and talk to us in 2019 or 2020 during one of our big like rah-rah meetings, and we had lots of like pledging happening. We made like it fun to pledge, and I think they saw a good boost. So yeah, that totally works.
We'll take Bev's comment and then we'll have to move on. So go ahead, Bev.
We have a little different circumstances with ESD because we have so many, our traffic is that we're sending people out to most of the charities you're talking about, like the food bank, like Catholic Charities, like Salvation Army, all of those. And they are they give to us so freely for our people that this is one time of the year. We try to have as many of them come and talk to us, and then what we do is split it up between there as a thank you for what they do for us all year long.
Absolutely. So it's very clear that there are many ways to make it work. And so it is kind of, sometimes it's trial and error. And the other challenging part is you all might be here for 4, 10, 15, 20 years. But as you all know, agency leadership changes like the wind. And so sometimes you feel really good and confident, and then all of a sudden you're retraining everyone above you. I literally just went through it, and I'm the statewide program, right? And so we just went through a leadership change where I had to convince the secretary, this is what the CFD is, and this is why it's important. And, you know, of course, he had a vested interest because it's in his portfolio, but still, it's taking that time to have those conversations and teach when you can. So thanks everyone for sharing. We'll have more opportunity. We usually do some sort of fundraising training where people can just talk about fundraisers if they're really into it. But as a little precursor, I'll pass it over to Erin. She'll go over some of the necessary practices around fundraising, just as a little refresher for those of you who have either taken a break during COVID or might just learn a thing or two from this part of the presentation.
Hello, everybody. So fundraisers and necessary practices. So fundraisers don't have to host any fundraisers depending on what your capacity is. But a lot of folks like to do them. They're great feel-good activities and events for your agencies when you can host them and when you have the ability to do so. So one key thing when you're starting off is to set a budget. So you don't want to spend more money than what you anticipate on raising, because there are some instances, again, if you are in a regulatory agency and you can't get things donated, where you might be needing to have some funds come out of pocket, or you can consider that a donation from yourself. But in that instance, if you needed a reimbursement, I will discuss the steps to do so later in a couple of slides. So when hosting your events, your fundraising events, you'll want to ensure that you are making sure to select an active charity. And the way that you would know whether or not the charity is active is by utilizing our charity search guide. And myself or Layla will be able to show you where that is online, or if you're logged into your donor account. Essentially, if you're looking up a charity and they pop up, then they are active. There are ebbs and flows when some charities might go out of compliance and they didn't submit some certain paperwork. So just ensure that they are active when you're hosting these events so that we can then distribute the money to those charities. If they're inactive or if they have closed, then we will have to go through the process of either refunding money or just ensure they're active. Next, you'll want to communicate to your local coordinators who may be interested in hosting events of their own that they should run those ideas by you first, so that you can ensure that they're not trying to do any gambling or they're soliciting when they aren't allowed to necessarily. So just send them the messaging that all fundraisers should run through you. And then again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. And then you'll also want to find out who in your agency's fiscal department will be managing the money that you're receiving. Some of you are remote and may not necessarily have access to your fiscal agencies. So if you collect cash or checks or whatnot, and you're planning on sending them into our office directly, we suggest that you send us a money order or cashier's check for any cash received. And I will get into more details about that also later. And then ensure that you download all your fundraiser forms once you have completed your fundraisers. And this just provides us with the information so that we know where the money is coming from and who the money should be going to. Slide. So some important tips. Again, some folks might be remote. You might not necessarily be collecting your donations via paper contribution forms. If you are collecting them via paper, make sure that you send all of those into our office once your event has concluded. It is a manual process for us the system. So if you decided, oh, I'm going to wait till all my fundraisers are done at the end of the year and send them in one big lump sum, those will not get entered again till we receive them. And we just want to avoid any confusion or maybe some upset people who, as an example, maybe you hosted a fundraiser in October, a chili cook-off, and they're anticipating that donation is going to come out sometime around that month, either October or November. But then because we didn't receive the contribution forms till January, they're not getting pulled till that time. And again, just want to avoid them being confused about that, and then ensuring that the money is coming out when they anticipate it to come out. Another good thing, there was a study done where it's been seen that the 10th pay date tends to be more fruitful when hosting an event rather than the 25th. The 25th, folks may be thinking about paying for their mortgages and their car payments, so big chunks of money where they might not have as much extra to participate in your fundraising events. So then you'll also want to record your agency fundraisers. So when you're hosting these events, although we would love to have you year after year, and we have seen you year after year, we appreciate you coming back. But we know that there's going to be a time where you may want to pass that baton on down. So having a record of all the events that you've hosted is an excellent tool that you can pass down to any incoming campaign leaders, so that they're not having to start from ground zero. At least they'll have some sort of documentation on the things that work for you when hosting your own events for your agencies. And then while doing your fundraisers, perhaps consider donating to the CFD to help offset our administrative fees. Next slide. So one popular fundraiser is silent auctions. If you're doing them in person, or whether or not you're doing them online, either way, you could utilize an online payment link. Some of you guys have reached out to us. We have provided these sources for you. There's the opportunity to do donations via credit card or via payroll. It's really easy to create and use and share amongst the people that are participating. One hint and tip with any of our website tools is it is sensitive in that sometimes it's particular in the information that you input. So anytime you're inputting a dollar amount, omit the dollar sign. That will cause you to have an error. So that's one little tip. No dollar sign, numbers only. So speaking of silent auctions, we are trying to kind of rein things in. I know there are some of you out there that may host silent auctions and then do payment plans where participants are making incremental payments over a year time span. And what we're trying to do is limit that to a more manageable 3-month time span. And by being manageable, it's ensuring that that you're collecting all the money that you anticipate on collecting. Over a year, you don't know whether or not this individual may find another opportunity at another agency, or they may decide, you know what, I'm ready to retire right now. So once those folks leave, we're no longer able to collect the money that you were trying to get for your event. So 3-month time frame, that will ensure that you're collecting all the funds that you we're hoping to collect for the goods that you are selling. And again, make sure that you're turning in your documents to our office as soon as possible. Next slide. So during your fundraiser, cash handling. If you are hosting an event and you have the donors that really want to pay with cash, that's something that we can do. You'll want to check with your fiscals department to find out what their internal cash handling procedures are. In that instance, you would probably take that cash, send it to your fiscal office. They would then journal voucher it or deposit it from their agency bank to our agency bank, if you have access to that. If you don't, as I mentioned before, get a cashier's check or a money order. Please refrain from depositing any cash into your own personal bank accounts. This is just to protect you, safeguard you, in case something funny happens. So cashier's check, money order, and then make sure that it is made out to the combined fund drive and not the charity that you're trying to support. And then when you're at your events and you're collecting the cash, have 2 volunteers kind of safeguarding it. You could put it in a lockbox. If you don't have one and you're in the Thurston County area, we do have extra that you can borrow if needed. Next slide. Okay, so wrapping it up, sending the information to our office. This is just providing more details. If you had deposited it to your fiscal office, make sure that you get the transfer number and the dollar amount when filling out the form. Again, this just helps us so that we know where the money is coming from and where the money should be going to. As Robert was saying earlier, the date that you'll want to wrap up any fundraisers and have all forms to our office is by December 8th. So this will ensure that your charities are receiving all the funds that you've collected in a timely manner, so January timeframe. If we get them later after this date, then they will not be receiving the donations until April. As I mentioned before, save a copy of your fundraiser documents. This is good historical knowledge for yourself and for any future campaign leaders in your agency. Send copies to us so that we know what's going on as well. And then also share your results with your agency, show how much money that you've raised, celebrate. This is fundraisers are not easy. So it's a great chance to just soak in all the great work that you have done. And now reimbursements. As Robert had mentioned, it is possible for you to request a reimbursement. Keep in mind, it does go towards the administrative fee, which then means less money is going to charities. So if you are seeking reimbursement, just know that we are not able to reimburse individuals. We can only reimburse agencies. So what you will need to do is complete an A-19 form and make copies of your receipts, and you will send that to your fiscal department. They will then reimburse you. And then they will provide us, our office, with their own A-19, your receipts, and then as well as a copy showing us that they had paid you to us, and then we will reimburse the agency. There's that December 8th deadline again. This is just helping us wrap up the year in one big swoop. So ensuring that it's that January to December timeframe. Next slide, I believe. Now I'm handing it off to Layla to show you some great resources online to navigate our website.
Thank you, Erin. So as most of you probably know, our website is give.wa.gov. Here you can find all the resources that we've talked about under the volunteers tab. So if you go under volunteers is mostly everything you're going to need. Fundraising event resources, giving campaign materials, training materials. And I think someone had mentioned before about their speakers and connecting with local charities and inviting them to your events. So some of the things Erin mentioned just recently were the fundraiser after your event form. So the fundraiser transfer form, this is where it lies. Reimbursement, the A19 forms, they're all here under fundraising resources. If you go back, they also are under the training materials and campaign leader documents. So here in the campaign leader documents, we have the training, your handbook that I had sent a link to. So this is kind of what it looks like. And it's an overall, our presentation is pulled from this handbook. So this is kind of goes more into detail about everything that we've just talked about. So if you ever need to look back on something, you can come here and look here. Robert had mentioned the gambling one pager. This is what he's talking about. Gives a lot more information and breaks down and examples of what is okay and what is not. So when you have the time, just look through that. We also have a presentation. We have a fiscal handbook as well. So if you look under there, this is just really helpful for everything that Erin just had mentioned. Donations, soliciting, the payroll contributions, cash handling rules, kind of more in depth. Reimbursement, logging your fundraisers. So these are more of a snapshot, and Erin's going to actually go into it later. Also, just real quick, if you all have questions and like, where did this one thing come from? You can throw that in the chat now, and I can also look and show you directly where it's at. I know our website has a lot of different clicks, so if you're ever confused, like I remember you showing me this once, but I forget where that is. We are happy to show you. I am happy to show you. We also have some videos, some how-to videos in case middle of the campaign you're like, oh, Erin did do a breakdown, but what does that look like again? The video is here. Let's see. Renee had mentioned earlier about donating through volunteer hours. So again, if you look under search, find CFD charities, say you had donated you had volunteered a couple hours at the Combined Fund Drive, which you should do. That would be great. We'd love to hang out with y'all. You would click find the charity and go to this tab here for logging your fund volunteer hours with this charity. And so that would link you to this form builder where you can enter all the volunteer hours. This is a great link for you to just share out because, some people, I know a lot of people volunteer and they might not be logging their hours. That's a great way for your agency to get volunteer hour participation when we do our state awards and whatnot. Speaking of state awards, I think it's really fun that we were able to host an in-person event this year to celebrate the volunteer winners. And so we just really want to make sure that you as volunteers know that you're very appreciated. And so this year we were able to host an in-person reception for all of the winners. And here's a lovely photo of most of them, whoever was able to make it. And so here we have all of our winners. So if you ever want to check it out, it's on our website and under the carousel. And here are all of our winners and nominees for the 2022 statewide volunteer awards. If you'll ever want to share that out to your agencies and be like, look, we won. This is where they will be for quite some time. Let's see. Our social medias are all up here. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the YouTube channel that I had mentioned earlier. Are there any questions if anyone wants something wants to see something? Oh, also, Jolyn had mentioned the food and goods. So this is the form builder. This is where you can enter all of the information about like what food, how many pounds of food you donated, goods, and what charity the drive is supporting. We are always able to pull that report for you. And so say you want to know like how many people donated to the feline cats or the Thurston County Food Bank, you know, so we can always pull a report for you on that. And this is just an easy way for people to just enter the things that they've given. And so that we're recording that this year. Like we said earlier, it's always important to have different avenues of giving. We understand not everyone can give monetarily. So we're really excited to see how this one works out, this campaign. Yeah. Any other questions before I hand this over to Erin?
Hi, Layla. I have a question. This is Anita.
Yes.
So when we go up to that top tab and we click on volunteers, and then we log into our own. Nope, maybe that's not it.
Oh yes, and you can sign in here.
Oh, there we go. Campaign leader sign in.
Yes.
I was looking through that yesterday after our training, and I found, pardon me, a list of I don't know what we call them, campaign members. I don't know, in DSHS. I wonder, is that who keeps that list updated, and do we know if it's accurate?
I can
It's a
answer
spreadsheet.
that.
Oh, thanks, Bonnie.
I can answer that. The campaign leaders, Ron and I are not able to put those volunteers into the system, and so Erin or somebody does that. So Erin put you into the system, Anita, this year, but all the local coordinators, Ron and I do that as we get them from you.
Okay, so the email that I sent you yesterday then gets sent over to someone here who populates that list.
Right. Ron and I, the local coordinators that you sent me, Ron and I populate that list there.
Awesome.
Because we have sometimes 300 volunteers, and that would swamp the Secretary of State's office.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Bonnie.
Yep.
All right. Are there any other questions before Erin takes it over? All right. Go for it, Erin.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that that is just DSHS. So for all the other agencies, you are going to be the ones that are updating or removing your local coordinator lists. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little refresher on how to log in. It can be a little confusing. If you had any questions there, so I'm going to share my screen. All right. So again, logging into your campaign leader account, you'll click on volunteers, scroll down, click on campaign leader sign in. If you have forgotten what your username is, you can email us and I can provide you that information. Right, so it'll bring you to this homepage here, which has all of your reporting information, which is pretty useful. Here is a report that you'll want to pull right after this meeting or sometime this month, just to make sure that it's up to date. So this will include any other campaign leaders, if you have a co-campaign leader, as well as all of your local coordinators. This list will be pretty small since it only contains myself and Layla, but yours may be a little more robust. So this is where the contact information will be. You'll want to utilize this to reach out to those folks this year and see if they are still in your agency, number one, and number two, if they are still able to volunteer with you during this upcoming campaign. It's also helpful to keep that list up to date because we are going to start sending out correspondence to local coordinators to let them know about their upcoming training, which will be happening in August. So back to reports. Another very useful tool that you'll want to utilize if we had provided you with any online payment links, if that is allowed within your agency to utilize. This is where you can pull your reports to see how much you have raised. Or if you're utilizing it as a entry fee, you can see who has decided that they're going to participate and who has paid via credit card. So again, website needs finessing. Ensure that you are choosing the correct year. You have to input the year. Typically, when we create the links for you, we try to have the year in there so that it will pull the report correctly. Tip, if you put in the wrong year, when pulling the report, your report will be blank. So, select the year, go ahead and well-fed, well-read. You'll click Generate Report, View Save Report, and voila, you'll see all the folks that have participated in your event. Let's see where else. Another helpful area to visit is this is where you're managing your volunteers. The state office is are the only folks that can enter in campaign leaders, so folks like yourself. For your local coordinators in your different divisions, that's information that you can input into the system. So one key area that is helpful for us is to include the mail stop, and it makes you put something in. So, and if we have any paper correspondence that we may be sending out, mail stops are great, help save us money on that postage. So if you have the mail stop, please put it in there. If you don't know what that person's mail stop is, or if they don't have one, it requires you to fill it in. So you can just put not applicable, and then it'll let you add in your volunteer after you've input all the relevant information. Another helpful tab for you is to come here to fundraisers. So anytime you collect funds via online payment link or checks or whatnot, this is where you'll enter them into the system so that we know who the money needs to be going to. So as an example, you'd enter the name of your event. It's great to put in the year. So chili, you'll input your agency, who the volunteer was, and then whether or not you had collected money via check or if you had deposited those funds to your fiscal office and they're going to be sending us the money, you'll select one of these buttons there and input the corresponding number that's associated with that batch or journal voucher that is coming from your fiscal office. If you have checks that you're sending to our office and you have multiple checks, you can just input all the numbers here and then have a comma, put in the next check number, and so on and so forth. If you're entering funds that you had collected via credit card, you'll just select this button and you will put See Credit Card Report. Here you'll put in the total transfer amount that you had raised. And then this is where you'll input the charity code to designate where the funds are going. So it's great and makes it easy on you if you had decided to limit your support to 3 charities, because ultimately, say you raised $100 and you're supporting 3 charities, you would need to break it down so that it's equivalent. So once you enter all the charities, this balance will be 0, which indicates that all the money has been designated to where it needs to go. If you open it up to all 4,500 charities and there was a donor or several donors that are just donating like $2 or $3 here and there, you'll have to input every single charity and every single amount into the system so that it balances out. One tip there is that you'll want to hit that save button because, again, our system needs some finessing, some little snuggles and cuddles. Sometimes it'll get to a point where it may freeze and then it'll kick you out. So the Save Fundraiser button is your friend if you had decided that you wanted to open it up to all the charities in support. So once you have that information, you'll save it, and then you will know who those funds need to go to. I believe those were the main highlights that I wanted to show you. You can check on volunteer hours for your different participants and see which charities are the most, which charities your donors are giving their support to. If you wanted to highlight a particular one and say, oh, you know what, we have so many charities, feeling confused, these are the top charities that that ESD is really passionate about, which helps give folks that maybe are new to the agency or new to state government an opportunity to kind of like hone in on on one charity. Okay. Do we have any questions on any of that? Nope. I hope that was a good refresher. Again, our system, sensitive. If you run into any issues, any errors, just let us know, and then we can walk you through it. It might be something that we need to reach out to our own IT team to fix. So I'm going to now pass it on back to Layla.
Hello, everyone. All right, so you might be thinking now that we're kind of rounding it out, so what's next? A great way to, or a great next step, which is just to be getting your team started. And so like Erin showed you, downloading your volunteer report and kind of getting your team together. This is just the brief overview of the next few weeks if you want to do this step or take these steps. It's a great way to like keep yourself organized and get your team together. And we just wanted to provide like an overall timeline from now till December. And so just some things to note from the CFD as well, just like the bare bones of what we're doing. So this month or in July, we're going to be having our Seahawks preseason ticket auction. So if you want to promote any of these events that we're having, that would be great. In August, we're going to have our local coordinator training. And I think this is a great time for you all to meet with your team, discuss the goals, a theme maybe that you also want to do for the campaign. Of course, you can always use 23andB. I think that'd be great. But if you guys really want to hone in on that, that'd be awesome to talk about. Planning out the fundraisers that you might do. Like we said, you don't have to do a bunch of fundraisers. You can do just one, like one that you really focus on. And so just getting the feel of what your team would want for this upcoming campaign and setting out monthly meeting dates. I mean, at least we would encourage you to meet at least once a month. But if you want to do more than that, that's also great. In August, we will be doing our Seahawks regular season ticket auction. So if you would like to promote that. In September, we have our leadership breakfast, which is a great way for all of our volunteers to hang out with each other, hear from some speakers, and just really kick off our campaign. And speaking of kickoff, we do have a kickoff event, which is our first week to give, which is always really popular when state employees or higher education employees give $5 or more to their favorite CFD charities. We give them a $5 Starbucks gift card. And so that's always fun. And we host that in October from October 2nd through the 8th. During October, we will also have our second round of regular season tickets for the Seahawks. November is kind of more of an open month. We will have our charity sweepstakes event, which we did this year, and it ended up being very successful. So we want to do that again. And of course, after Thanksgiving, we have Giving Tuesday, which is more of like a national thing, but it's a great way to be like, hey, everyone, give to your favorite charity today. And you can kind of play with that as well. In December, we have as Erin has mentioned, the deadline, which is December 8th. Of course, hopefully you can get all that good stuff in way earlier, but if you can't, December 8th is the deadline. You might want to start setting a date in January to just celebrate the campaign results and the successes. Speaking of, we want to remind you that you are the nominators for our statewide recognition awards. So just keep those outstanding volunteers in mind, and the ones that you really want to make sure they know that they're appreciated. Just keep them in mind so that when we send out our nomination form, you can be ready and set on that, and you're really thinking about that. Are there any questions about this and the timeline for that? And if not, we just have overall questions for you all, us and the team.
While you guys think about questions, I'll just ramble for a few moments. So I know that we've talked a lot today about some of the challenges that we have with our system, how our website's finicky, how everything's a little delicate. And so since you all have been around, you've probably heard over the years, we're going to get a new system, we're going to replace this, we're going to do that. And so just giving everyone a realistic update on what we have been doing. And so since my team has been here, we've been here for about 2 years, as you all probably know, since you've been here longer than us. And so we really had to do a lot of onboarding to even figure out how the system works, because not everything had a SOP or a COOP plan. So we've been learning and growing. Over the last 2 years, we've completed our systems requirement document, which is really a laundry list of how everything has to work in our system. Because what really has happened is the system was intended to just do payroll deduction. And over the last 15 years, they've piecemealed little extra things onto it. And so we created the system requirement document, and now we're doing what's called a feasibility study, which is basically looking with an independent person. So we have a consulting agency that's helping us independently tell us what our best path forward is. So is it a software as a solution? And is there a solution out there now? Right? We might have started workplace giving 38 years ago, but private companies have now come along and made it sexy and fun and easy and more robust than what our current system is doing. So we have really good ideas and structure. We just need a better donor management system at this point. And so what we've been doing is feasibility study, which is talking to them about all our requirements. And then they go out and ping a bunch of vendors and learn a bunch and then bring us demos to see if it fits, 80% of what we're looking for, 90% of what we're looking for, etc. So we received some funding from the state legislature to do all that activity. So that hasn't come at the expense of donors. The feasibility will conclude at the end of June, and then we'll kind of be in system remediation for the remainder of this year, 2023, which means identifying things that are broken on the back end and trying to work through them, upgrade them, fix them, regardless of if we get a new donor management system. The hope is that we'll take a decision package to the legislature, because we did last year and it failed, but they basically said, hey, you're just not far enough along yet. Come back when your feasibility study's done. So they gave us hope that they're willing to listen. They're willing to hear us out. They just want all our ducks in a row. And so that's what we're doing. So we'll go to the legislature in January of 2024, ask for supplemental money to basically implement a new system. For those of you who aren't familiar with the legislative process, off years, they make adjustment to the biennium budget. So the biennium budget is set for 2 years, and then on the off year, they make adjustments to that budget. So they don't make a new budget. They just say, we need to pull money from here, add it over here. We need to create more. We got more revenue than we expected from the capital gains tax. So we have all this additional money that we can spend, et cetera, et cetera. So our goal would be to go to them, say we need X amount of dollars based on all this work that we've been doing to implement. We would get the money in April of 2024 and then have to decide, can we make the switch before October of 2024 effectively to not interrupt the normal campaign. So it is still a road ahead, but we know that there are things that we can continue to do in the interim. And a lot of it is just connection and building relationships. We had a huge turnover over the last 3 years in state government. Massive amounts of people retiring early. The vaccine mandate got rid of some people, and then now some of them are coming back because the vaccine mandate has been lifted. So there's just been a lot of turnover, and people. The new normal is just hard and challenging to navigate, right? We used to go around and knock on everyone's cube and ask them to join, and that doesn't happen anymore. And so we need to be thinking about, how do we get in front of people if we live in a virtual environment? Sending an email isn't enough anymore. Do we go to a division meeting? Do we go to a staff meeting? Do we think about reaching out to HR and talk about the benefits of actually belonging and including and providing opportunities for individuals to get involved as a retention tool, right? Like state government has been challenged with that as well. And so, but the CFD is a workplace giving tool, which is proven to give a sense of belonging and proven to help things like retention and meaning making and working against some of the things that oftentimes HR and or your agency is fighting for culture. So that's just the real 11:46 a.m. download from your CFD program manager. We're continuing to fight for better solutions for us, but in the interim, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you all, knowing that some things are held together with glue and duct tape, and we appreciate you being flexible, and we're aware that it's not perfect and that we want to make things easier, like everyone gets one sign-in, and then we can just give you roles or permissions as a campaign leader or a local coordinator or a volunteer, instead of some of us having 4 logins for the same system, right? It's just bananas, and it doesn't make sense. So we're aware, and we'll continue to keep working for it. But we're really, really grateful that you're here today, that you're here to recommit, and we're happy to help you. But we really do truly rely on you all to make it happen, because we're 4 people in one agency trying to support 120 different agencies, and we legitimately couldn't do it without you. So we appreciate you being here, and we'll take more questions now that I got on my soapbox. So you had time to come up with a question or comment. So
This is Anita. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jolene.
No, go ahead, Anita. I've been talking a lot.
So this isn't necessarily central to CFD, but or the action of raising funds. But do you ever do any sort of like continuous improvement follow-up kind of things with the campaign leaders at the end of a campaign to sort of determine where we could have done better, share best practices, et cetera, et cetera? Does anything like that happen?
at this time, we haven't, and it's really based on we're in a really reactionary state because there's only 4 of us. We spend, not exaggerating, 85% of our job is us piecemealing things together in the background. So things that you all don't really know is every time we create a credit card link for you and we add the payroll deduction option, if you use the payroll deduction option, one of the 4 of us has to manually enter that into the system. So when people are doing like little e-grams and you send 1,000 e-grams, we have to manually enter those in. So because so many things are not actually automated, we spend a lot of our time unfortunately in a reactionary state rather than a proactive state. And so part of the goal of getting a new donor management system is allowing us the capacity to actually be in a more proactive state rather than a reactive state. So it's something that I'd love to get under our belt, but it just hasn't come to fruition yet.
Well, just, as a personal note, and I think you probably have a ton of people in this room and as a part of our, volunteer group here that have these skills and abilities to help do, sort of continuous improvement work. I mean, I would volunteer my time willingly to help figure out how do we streamline things to make it easier for you to not be so reactionary. So it's just something, it's all great. This all looks great and lovely. I'm not being critical. I'm just always thinking about how do we do better before we even do the thing. So pardon my forward thinking.
No, it's great. It truly is one of those things where, I mean, and even having these conversations, like the reality is so much of it requires a level of people getting involved where like point blank, we have 130 agencies. About 30 of them don't even have a campaign leader, and I can't get them to give me a campaign leader. So there's a third of the agencies that we're just not communicating with very well, and I can't fix that. And that's some of the challenges is right. It's RCW and WAC related, where like it's a option for the agency to participate. It's not a requirement. It's not written into WAC that they must have a campaign leader. It says that you should, basically. And so some of it is like we really aren't even doing some of the basics because things have just fallen through the cracks over the years. So we have some really, really dedicated agencies, and then we have some people that are just like off in Never Land. And yeah, I mean, I love lean, I love all that, but and I definitely am open to those conversations. We just haven't had capacity ourselves to do it. So hearing willing volunteers is always extremely exciting. Appreciate your comment.
Robert, can I ask, as part of this like I am always excited to see other campaign leaders. Is there a way that we could get a list of all the campaign leaders so that if we wanted to like pose, we wanted to have our own Teams group or something, we could use that as a tool to troubleshoot, or is that too much? Or give people the opportunity to opt in?
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk about the process. I think that the biggest hurdle would just be campaign leaders always a shifting title, right? Like people drop and people add, and so we can give you a list, but then it's just we'd have to figure out just how often we need to like refresh the list. Is it once a month? Is it once a quarter that we upload a list and download?
Well, that
and
makes
I
sense.
think
So I will just
and I
throw it out there. Like, I'm not going anywhere and I've been doing this a long time. And so if anybody has any questions or wants to do a quick check-in, I'm happy to do that and work with you, like, or commiserate with you if you need it. So yeah, just let me know. I know that I don't want to create more work, Robert, for you and the team, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I think we could be resources for each other as well.
No, I agree, and I think that I wish our system would just let all the campaign leaders know about each other, but it doesn't. So we can just figure out a manual process that's not laborsome to get that information out. And I think, especially with you and Bonnie being in more permanent roles, like you two even being the keeper of that list of just like initiating those emails and not necessarily being at every meeting, but just being the keeper of the campaign leader could be of the campaign leader list, at least could be a good solution to get the ball rolling to, and we can know about those meetings and you guys can always ping us into a meeting if you have a question or something comes up. Yeah, so I like that idea. Roseanne.
Hi, Robert. I was going to say, kind of riffing on your idea, we do have the Thurston County Steering Committee. I don't know if you're in Thurston County or not, that we kind of get together every month and we talk about how we can promote CFD, and we're doing the charity fair that's coming up that I put in the chat. And I mean, we're always looking for more members to make it more robust. So I think it is a great place where campaign leaders and people involved in CFD can come together from different agencies and kind of get ideas. So you're welcome to come anytime.
Thank you, Roseanne. I also lead the Snow King Steering Committee.
Oh, okay. You're not Thurston County. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for any of you, that is a great reminder that if you are interested in like being part of the group that figures out trainings or events that we're doing countywide, please give me a shout and I'm happy to add you to the steering committee. We are currently like Mike Morris and me, and then like a bunch of nonprofits. And so we'd love to have more state employees involved in that committee. And, not just from the UW and DSHS. I mean, but you can be on the committee if you're with DSHS. I love you all. You do amazing work.
Lynn, you forgot me. I'm on the committee too.
Oh my gosh, Bonnie, I'm so embarrassed. Yes, Bonnie is also on the committee. You know what, Bonnie, if I can't see you, you don't exist. Like if I don't write it down, it doesn't exist. Bonnie is also on the committee. So yeah, we like when people talk about tiny but mighty, it's us. It's all of us doing this work, right?
Perfect. We have about 4 minutes left. Any other comments, questions, concerns, feelings? Erin, can we just make a note for our follow-up to also include contacts for both Snow King and Thurston as a way to get involved if they want for campaign leaders?
Yep, can do. Thank you.
Perfect. Other questions, comments, concerns, feelings? We'll